So, you want to hear a pretty cool food heist?
I always want to hear a pretty cool food heist. This is what you've done to me. If you go back and listen to the early episodes, I'm not interested at all.
No.
I'm trying to be for your sake. And now I salivate, pun intended, over food heists.
That's because they're amazing.
I'm
glad. It is a sign that people can change and become better.
I don't know what you've done to me because I shouldn't be interested in this, but I am. I need to know.
I was on a panel at the World Horror Convention, a true crime panel that was about serial killers. This was years ago. And I was sitting next to, and I can't remember his name. He's a big deal in the true crime genre.
Okay.
He wrote a book called The Girl Next Door.
Okay.
That was about this horrible like kidnapping and torture case and all this awful stuff that happened.
You weirdos.
And one of the questions from the audiences was like, is there a true crime story that you wish you could write the book of? And they went down the line, and it's like, oh yeah, this serial killer or this other thing. And then they got to me, and I'm like, the Great Maple Syrup Heist. And this guy next to me turns. He's like, what? Nope, that's what I love to do. Anyway, okay, so this one's cool.
Okay.
This one is fun because it was sent in by a reader.
Okay. A listener?
A listener,
Yes.
We don't have... and he didn't specifically say you can use my name, and so I'm not going to use the name.
Let's point out, could be a reader. We do have these closed captioned.
That's true.
Yes.
Could be a reader, could be a watcher, could be a listener. But this is something that he or she... actually, the name is weird.
Okay.
So I don't know what gender it is. But he, she, or they was actually involved. This was their alligator farm.
Oh, wait. Wait.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
you have my attention.
yeah.
Mr. Wells.
So
food heist alligator farm.
Alligator farm.
Okay.
A lot of alligators are grown for the skin, right? The leather that you use to make boots or whatever.
Grown,
raised,
herded,
ranched.
Ranched?
It's an alligator ranch. I don't know what they call them, but whatever it was, this person worked on one, and the family owned one.
Yeah.
And back in 2008, Hurricane Gustav rolled through Louisiana, which is where this alligator emporium was located.
Okay.
And there was a bunch of the alligator ranchers all around were scrambling because this is the risk of losing tens or even hundreds of thousands of eggs to the hurricane if they were not properly contained. And so they were trying to bring them in. They were trying to get them into, incubators or warehouses or wherever they keep them safe, and realized that, obviously in the rush, we're going to miss some. But then as days went by and the weeks went on after the hurricane, they realized, wait a minute, there's way more missing than there should be, than is predictably expected by the hurricane. And it turned out that there were 3 or 4 guys who had taken advantage of this confusion and this natural disaster to sneak in and rob thousands and thousands of alligator eggs from all these farms. And they had built in the middle of the Louisiana swamp their own hidden secret base where they had their own incubators and stuff, raising these alligators to eventually sell as meat.
Oh, man. These guys got cred.
Right?
I mean, this is the most, street cred, scary food heist group.
Mm-hmm.
I'm imagining this Don of alligator harvesting who's sitting behind his seat, and you meet him and he's dipping a toothpick. Have you had alligator?
I have.
Usually it's you get little strips is what I've gotten it in something and eating it, and it's ranch dressing because he's the alligator rancher.
Okay.
And the alligator rancher is like one of these mafia bosses of food heist world.
I don't know if it is actually the worst thing to put on alligator, but it feels like the worst thing I can think
but
of
where
to
was
put on
this?
alligator.
Where
this was
was-
Louisiana. They were going to cover it with hot sauce.
Yeah.
Come on.
Okay.
But
he eats ranch. He's the alligator rancher.
it's just, it fits my criteria for heist.
Yeah.
It is a bunch of people working together with a clear plan. The fact that it took place under cover of a hurricane is intensely cinematic.
It's amazing.
This is a wonderful story.
Yeah.
And, like I said, it's not a pure food heist because it wasn't yet food, right? I don't know if people eat alligator eggs the way we eat chicken eggs. You would have to keep them and raise them and then sell them as food.
But that makes the heist
possibly as leather.
even better because it's planned,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
You're not going to make a quick turnover. You're going to go ranch these alligators so that other people can ranch those alligators. And you're just going to, I don't know how long it takes to grow up an alligator, but this is years. And, you got to have your hurricane suits. I don't know what you do to
special hurricane
your special
suits.
hurricane-proof suits. This is like the Avengers.
They should give those to everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would sure solve a lot of problems on the Gulf Coast, wouldn't it?
Just walk around in your hurricane suit all the time.
Hurricane suit, yeah.
Keep
it in your glove compartment.
No, you keep it. You got to have it Tony Stark. It's got to pop out because you can't have
in a little suitcase like Iron Man 2.
Yeah, your hurricane suit.
Of course,
should have little wings on it so you can fly around in the hurricane if you want to, right?
That would be cool.
Yeah,
yeah. I was about to say, but what if the thing that makes it hurricane proof is that you don't get thrown around by the wind? But then I realized it's a hurricane proof suit. You're gonna be fine.
You're gonna be fine. Yeah,
it's great.
That's how it works, right?
Yeah. So, anyway, so there was this major investigation. They were caught, and it sounds like a bunch of their crocodiles, their alligators, had contracted West Nile due to exposure, which is sad. So
you're making me less confident that the alligator rancher is.
Oh no, it was still good.
Yeah.
It was still exciting.
Yeah.
But yeah, they did get caught.
This is like
their secret alligator ranch in the middle of the swamp.
We got in Food Heist Prison. Like this is one of the families because there's those people who steal wine and alcohol and stuff, and then you got from the bayou the alligator rancher and their crew, which they move in different. So
it's the Boyd Crowder of the
Don
prison.
Is probably the wrong term, right? We're gonna have some French influence instead of some Italian influence.
That's true.
Yeah,
but I don't know what the leader of a crime family is called in French Louisiana.
Yes, people from French Louisiana, tell us what your equivalent of a Don is in the comments, so that we know how to properly attribute the crocodile or the alligator rancher.
Yes, and is it a rancher or is it a farmer?
It has to be a rancher, otherwise the pun does not work.
Well,
Daniel.
The pun is the least important part of the story. What am I saying? Puns are, of course, the most important part of anything.
It's absolutely the least important, but it's how we're going to remember.
But it's how we're going to remember the alligator rancher.
The alligator rancher. And so you gotta put a point on these things sometimes so that we can keep them all separate. There are so many great food heists now, right? Like we didn't name the Gnocchi Gang, and like I feel like we missed out.
We didn't name them, but we can remember them because we said gnocchi 4,000 times.
We did
during the course of the episode. So that one does stick in the mind as well. Also, we will forever remember Jack the carjacking car.
Jack the carjacking car and the groundskeeper.
You give him a pithy name, you got everything.
Yep. Groundskeeper's still my favorite.
So
Groundskeeper.
I haven't seen any comments, but I have to assume that there are several people very upset that our Fast and the Furious movie was not about a food heist. They were stealing cars instead of like. What if they're stealing food trucks? Can we turn it into that?
You can turn it into stealing food trucks. Well, how about this? It's Fast and the Furious. You can't steal food trucks.
Okay.
Right? But what you can steal is they need to transport really expensive, like weren't we joking about Fabergé Cadbury eggs? Right? They need to transport these. And they find that what has the best suspension is not a food, like some long haul truck. It's one of these really nice cars, right? It's going to be the smoothest ride possible to get them there the fastest. And so they're going to transport these things 1 egg per car. right? And so you're still in the cars,
maximum cushion.
and you're also getting your Fabergé Cadbury egg in the back.
But could there not be a scene where they need their incredibly nice car to look like a food truck, and so the mechanics have to like replace the taco truck chassis with a Ferrari something under the hood so that it handles like a sports car, but it looks like they're selling,
I think that has to go in the movie. That has to go in the movie. You're right.
A part of it.
I mean, I tried to push it the other way, but that's too brilliant. So we have now what we've got in our carjacking movie is we've got. Do you know how they they'll put a fake cop out, to catch Johns or things like that, right? We've basically got that. You've got a car that the carjacker, carjack is going to have to try to seduce, who's secretly a cop.
The food truck. The food truck is a self-driving, like decoy prostitute truck?
Yes, but it's not self-driving.
Yeah.
It's Vin Diesel has to pretend to be
a self-driving car?
The whole point is they can't use the self-driving cars.
Yeah.
That's against the soul and spirit of Fast and the Furious. And so...
Okay. I'm going to say that what they need is they've got Vin Diesel with like, hiding inside of some incredibly nice sports car because that's the bait, right? And in order to make him look like that sports car is undefended, they've disguised all their other cars as food trucks.
Okay.
And then Jack the carjacking car comes in and is like, oh, clearly none of these food trucks are going to be able to keep up. So they're not.
But they're just civilians. Jack to seduce a fake car.
Well, yeah, they're going to seduce the Vin Diesel car.
Vin Diesel
and
car?
Vin Diesel has to pretend to be a talking self-driving car.
Isn't it funnier if he's
he's also a food truck at the time?
Yeah, if you're seducing a food truck that sells like, I don't know, churros or something, right?
Okay, but imagine this. Jack the carjacking car is voiced by Dave Bautista.
Yes.
What if we follow gender norms a little bit and the car he's trying to steal via seduction is a girl car?
Right.
And that's Vin Diesel with a voice modulator to sound like a girl car.
We could just use Michelle Rodriguez.
I mean, we could, but that's not as funny.
It's not.
For some reason, they need her. Yeah. She's a better cook than Vin Diesel. She has to be operating the food truck.
In case they get stopped by someone who needs actual food.
Yeah. And then, she can't immediately go to help chase them down because she's got to finish an order.
Dan, something tells me that we might be getting a little too silly to convince Vin Diesel to make this movie.
You think?
We might be on that line.
Man.
We may have to be careful.
We're getting close to the line.
We're getting close to the line.
At the very least.
Yeah. We don't want to cross that line. We don't want Mr. Diesel to think that we're making fun of the prestigious Fast and the Furious franchise, which is unironically one of my favorite action franchises. So.
Ooh, so how about this?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so now I'm thinking, if we want to work the Fabergé Cadbury eggs into this, clearly those would be transported before the smart, carjacker guys show up and are like, clearly this needs to be transported in a sports car.
Yeah.
The government or whoever is transporting them in big armored cars.
Okay.
So we have like armored cars that are disguised as food truck cars.
Oh, that works.
Yeah.
That works. That's interesting. Armored cars are the worst thing to transport those in. They're going to be so bumpy.
I know.
Yeah. But what are we actually talking about today?
I don't even know.
Video games? Mobile gaming?
Video games.
Mobile gaming.
Mobile games.
Because I realized you actually mobile game.
I do.
We have trouble talking about video games because you do not play real video games.
Not your real video games.
You do not play good video games.
League of Legends is the biggest game.
Okay.
Biggest esport in the world, Brandon.
League of what? No, they're very nice. They tried. They asked me. I told you this, right? They asked me to come design a hero, and I just didn't have the time. But
it's okay. They already have Talon, who is very clearly a Mistborn. So
yes,
you're set.
And
they have Renata, who is very clearly.
And I suppose you also
was.
I've
told you about this one. There's a Cherry Dog's character.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, who's
Yep.
anyway.
And you also, I suppose, used to play the Blizzard game where people with interesting silhouettes shoot each other.
Oh, Overwatch?
Overwatch, yes.
I used to play.
Yeah.
I played Overwatch
Mm-hmm.
exhaustively.
So,
I've played Overwatch 2 maybe 3 times since it came out.
I can't really say you
Not
don't
very
play
good.
real games. You're right. Our big dividing point is I don't like multiplayer games. It's one of my things.
Mm-hmm.
I like
Yeah.
some co-op multiplayer games. I really enjoy Borderlands. I enjoy Diablo series playing with friends, but I do not like competitive because I do not want to take that competitive side of me and pit it against other people.
Mm-hmm.
Encouraging me to become the best that I can be at it and
Which will
catch
just
all the
take
Pokemon.
your time away.
For a game that has no ending, very dangerous. I've watched those types of games consume friends of mine, and I work a job where I can decide whether I work a given day or sit and play video games all day. And
yeah. And after we talked about this last time, because we've talked about Hades and various other things, I really sat down and tried to figure out, like, what is it about these games that doesn't work for me? And I really just think that at some point, and I'm going to pin this on Mass Effect 2.
Okay.
I don't think I like the way that video games tell stories.
Yeah, they do. I can go there with you. I mean, there are some stories that I legit like, but I have had to adapt my mind to say this is what a video game, these are types of stories video games tell, and I will appreciate the genre for what it's doing. But a lot of video games, there's this story is difficult in video games, having worked on them, because you want emergent story. You want the player to have a lot of autonomy and to build their own story. But then you also have this instinct where you want to be cinematic, and those things fight against each other. And so how you do that, every game finds its own balance, and I can appreciate the balances they find, but most of it is not truly cinematic despite trying, and sometimes when they try, it makes the storytelling worse.
Well, and I definitely don't want anyone to think that I am saying video games can't tell good stories. I think there's some very fantastic, wonderful stories being told in video games. I think I personally don't respond to them well.
Yeah.
There's something about that style of storytelling that has come to rub me the wrong way. And it's, over the last 10 or so years, I think I could count on one hand the number of story-based video games that I've really loved. And when it's something...
What's top on that list?
Top on that list of recent ones is Wildermyth.
Okay. I never played that.
Wildermyth is a turn-based strategy game. It does emergent story really well, and you don't control a character, you control a party, which I think is why in my brain it clicked over into, none of these people represent me. I'm just shepherding this adventuring party through the story. And that is enough to make it so the story doesn't break immersion. Okay. Because that was the problem with, a lot of these others is the story is clearly about a person that I am controlling, but who isn't me and is not making decisions I would want to make. And so that kind of first-person layer breaks. Mass Effect worked really well for me. Mass Effect 2 did not.
And that's interesting because both of us, I bounced off of Mass Effect 2. And it's widely regarded as the best video game in the series.
Yeah, most people adore it.
And I fully intend to play it again. We've talked about this before, I believe. I bounced off because I was bringing my character from the first one over, and then they just killed or made irrelevant all the people from they did which happens in a lot of movie sequels. Oh, well, it's a new cast now.
Yeah.
We're going to do something new. And I played it right after. I'm like, no, you told me this was about my story of the Commander Shepard I built. I don't want these people. I want my old group of people. Why can't I go with them? And
suddenly it wasn't the story I wanted it to be. Yeah. Anyway, I do know that we've talked about some of this before.
Yes.
But mobile gaming is something that we both do a lot of.
Yes.
So, what mobile games do you play? Because I bet we play different ones.
Yes. So I again stay away from mobile games where I'm playing against another person.
Okay.
And I look for really great single-player experiences that either have a beginning, middle, and end, or are kind of a shorter puzzle-based sort of thing. Which I think we're going to share that one. I've seen you playing that style of game before.
Yeah.
So most recently, I played Sagrada, which
I haven't heard of that one.
it's a board game that they did a port. Direwolf did.
Yeah.
The dice rolling drafting game. And I like that game a lot because it's like, all right, here's this. Playing a game takes 10 minutes, maybe. Easily pausable because a bunch of dice are rolled and you tried to fit them onto a board in a way according to certain rules that are also randomly generated. And can you fit them all on? That sort of thing. That's fun to me.
Yeah, I didn't know that Sagrada had an adaptation.
Yeah, Direwolf did it.
A significant portion of my my games on my iPad are all board game ports.
Yeah.
Like Roll for the Galaxy and Twilight Struggle.
Like I might have to try some of those.
Many. I'll show you tonight at Writing Group some of the ones I have.
I tend to like things when it comes to board games like Sagrada. Like that board game that Jordan had that was like about, you're going to know it, I think, if I can describe it right, making paths for like rocks in a Zen garden.
Oh, is that Suro?
Yeah. Like that sort of simple concept, simple execution, elegant execution game. That's the sort of board games I like the most. I do not like the big giant we're going to play for a week style board game just because it's that same thing. I feel like if I do it, I want to do it well. It takes too long to learn to play those games well. I'm sure I would love them if I did, but I don't have the time to do so.
Yeah, which makes sense. One of the really nice things about mobile game board game ports is that you can play those kind of games really fast.
Yeah.
Because you don't have to worry about other players because there's AI. And the computer takes care of all the number crunching and fiddly bits.
Yeah.
So something like Terraforming Mars, the board game is a lot of fun, but it's long and it's complicated. And you can play one on your iPad in like 15 or 20 minutes because it shuffles all the cards and it moves all the bits and it calculates all the numbers for you, which is awesome.
I'll have to grab a list of those from you. If you knowing I like Sagrada and the Zen Garden game, you might be able to throw a few at me.
Yeah.
But
most of mine are more kind of big, trashy ones like Terraforming Mars. But yeah, definitely.
What's your most played game right now?
Most played game right now is actually a gacha game. Do you play any of those?
I do not play any gacha games.
Yeah.
Gacha games are kind of antithesis to the way that I like to game. They maybe you should define gacha game for anyone listening who might not know.
So gacha is and I'm probably pronouncing it wrong, but it's my understanding is that it is a Japanese style of game, or at least it originates there.
Yeah.
Where there's a lot of little, they're free to play, but then you can buy all this extra energy, and kind of what you're doing is collecting characters,
right?
So that then you can do little mini games with them. And the longer you play, you get more characters, so you can form special teams. You get the ultra rare characters that are super fancy. What appeals to me about those, and there's some that I really like and some that I don't, is I love interesting character design and art. And so something like Azure Lane, which is naval combat, but all of your battleships are anime girls. Like, it's an inherently silly genre of game, but I think a lot of the...
You're kidding me.
A lot of the designs are really cool.
That's the one you play?
No, the one I play now is a Star Trek one.
Okay.
Which is called Star Trek Timelines. And so it's not so much about cool new anime characters as it is just, I get to collect all these characters that I know and different versions of them.
That might be a little more appealing to me.
Yeah.
My mind is reeling that you I spent a decent amount of time, I can assume, on a game where you collect anime girl battleships.
Yeah. See, the thing I like about Azure Lane is that you can automate the combat because the mini games are not as interesting to me as collecting the characters.
Okay.
That's what's fun. And so when it's time for combat, I can just hit the play this by yourself game, and then it takes like 15 seconds and it plays the battle by itself. And then it says, "Oh, look, you won these new characters," and then I get to sort through them.
I think Gacha might reference, audience can tell me if I'm wrong, in Japan, vending machines where you'll get a character.
It's the little vending machines. And so it's the loot box idea that congratulations, you've done a thing, whether it's spending currency or winning the mini game or whatever. Now you get these random little, bubbles or whatever they are that give you cool new characters. And there's tons of them. There's so many of them. Because
is
they are.
Is that what Raid Shadow Legends is? Which is like
Raid Shadow Legends is a gacha game as well.
Okay.
And so you get a loot box that has some characters, and they will all advertise them by like, oh, and if you join now, we'll give you this free ultra rare character, and things like that. That one doesn't appeal to me because. At least when I tried it, you couldn't automate the combat. And so I'm like, I'm not in this for the combat. I'm in this for collecting cool character designs.
And I was about to ask, do any of them actually have fun gameplay? And you wouldn't know, would you?
For me, the gameplay is about collecting and the characters and managing their resources.
Okay.
And so the Star Trek one, I will play that endlessly. Like I will, be working here and I'll answer a bunch of emails and then I'll say, okay, time for a little break. Get on. Do the whatever. Yep. Oh, look, I got a new Klingon. And then back to work. So every now and then you just pop in. That's the value of the idle games.
I suppose that Pokemon Go is one, and my family all plays that.
Yeah.
Right?
I think that's just an augmented reality gacha game.
Yeah.
I hadn't thought of it in those terms, but you're right.
I suppose I have played idle games, but see, the best idle game I've ever played is Universal Paperclip. Have you ever played Universal Paperclip?
I don't know what that is.
It is incredible. I highly recommend it to everyone. It is a short half-hour experience, and I can't really tell you because it's about actually the discovery of the kind of what the gameplay is. And these sorts of things. So play Universal Paperclip at some point.
Universal Paperclip.
Yep. Okay. Web game, not a mobile game.
Not a mobile game.
Yep. But because of that, I tried some of the others, and none of them, like Universal Paperclip, ends. Right. A lot of these idle games are never ending. And that. So
That's interesting. Now I will say, and maybe I'm misinterpreting, but you said part of the experience of Universal Paperclip is figuring out kind of what kind of game it is and how to play. I tend to really hate that.
Oh, do you? Okay.
Yeah. I will give it a try.
I'll tell you later on when we're off air. If you give it a try and it doesn't work, I'll tell you why it's cool. You'll appreciate why it's cool. You don't have to get there yourself if it's not. Like, I love that style of game. Like,
and a lot of people do.
Here?
Like, you probably played and loved Inscription, right?
I haven't played Inscription.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, you should try it.
I tried Cultist Simulator, I think is what it's called. Or no, not Cultist Simulator.
Oh, Cult of the Lamb?
No, Cult of the Lamb. I think it's Cultist Simulator. Okay. And that one was too much for me. Which is really... imagine a board game as complex as these wacky ones you love to play, like your Twilight Imperium type stuff. Yeah. But there's no explanation of the rules, and the idea is you have to figure it out. And you have to play it over and over and over again, figuring out what does what.
Oh my gosh.
And it was really interesting to me for like a couple of hours, and then there was just too much, and I didn't know what I was doing wrong and why I kept dying, and I couldn't figure it out. And I'm like, it's like one step too obscure, where I'm sure if I'd kept at it, I could have figured it out, but I just I'm moving on.
Yeah.
So my favorite games are single-player experiences that do something new with the medium, and maybe harken back to some classic gameplay.
See, I think you would love Inscription.
I'll have to play. That's
award-winning.
Yeah.
It starts off like a kind of collectible card game, sort of, kind of. But very quickly they start playing with the boundaries of what does it mean to be a game? How does this work? Is this a tutorial or is this something else? Which to me is like, oh, just get out of the way and let me play a game. But that's again because I personally don't I butt heads with storytelling in games.
Yep.
And so when it becomes clear that it's actually this whole thing behind it, then I lost interest.
My favorite mobile game of all time is one I think I've mentioned on the podcast before. It's called Ticket to Earth.
Probably.
Have I mentioned this?
I think you have, but I don't remember what it is.
Everybody should buy Ticket to Earth. I will evangelize for it. It is a mix between a Match 4 style game and Final Fantasy Tactics style squad-based combat.
Oh, that sounds cool.
And so what it is there's a board, and you have your characters on it, and the board is 4 different colors of scrambled. I think they might be hexagons, they might be squares, but let's assume hexagons.
Yeah.
And every one of those you can connect from your character will give you 1 point in the power that color represents. So blue is mind power, red is gain health back. Yellow is physical force. I can't remember what the other one is. One's like psionics maybe, or magic. And yeah, purple I think is magic. And so your characters each have stats. So if you can take the guy who's really good with ranged combat, I guess blue is like dexterity and purple is magic, something like that. Move him along to get him into position, and then collect as many squares as possible. His shot will do that much damage. But the physical person needs to end next to an enemy to deal damage. And if you can get things on the board that drop periodically, you get power-ups and stuff like that. So the idea is, how long a chain can I make of the same color? Which color do I want for this character to fill up their power set? And can I end them in a position where the other enemies can't shoot me during their turn? Or next to one that I can finish off, or something like that. So you've got this tactics-based strategy thing that's also just really using the touch interface well, because you're drawing these things on the board, and I love that because it uses the mobile game touch interface. It harkens back to some of the other things. It has a story. You may not like it, but it has a legit story. It's a bunch of people on Mars during like a zombie outbreak, and they're like, there's a ship that's leaving Mars. We need to get to it and get off Mars.
Yeah,
that's
cool.
why it's called Ticket to Earth. Is we need to.
One of the gacha games that I tried a few months ago had a combat system similar to that.
Yeah.
That I thought was fascinating, and that never really came together. It never felt like my choices mattered. And so this sounds very compelling to me.
My second favorite is a perennial favorite of a lot of people who mobile game, which is Downwell. You ever done Downwell?
Mm-mm.
So Downwell is a retro style shooter. So when I say retro, 2D kind of platformer. Did you ever play Kid Icarus back in the day? So Kid Icarus, you're jumping up these platforms and fighting things. Downwell is you have gun boots.
Oh.
And you jump in a well, and every shot bumps you up a little bit as you're moving through the air and shoots a bullet downward with your gun boots. And so you can use your gun boots to either hover for basically only like 3 or 4 shots as you're landing your platform jump because you're falling, or you can use your gun boots to shoot the guy underneath you. So you go down, you bounce off like on Mario. You can hit the top of enemies and bounce off of most of them. Some of them are red, and those ones you only can shoot, and land on your platform, plan your next jump, and gun boot away. And there's like 7 different gun boots you can get, and you kind of rotate between them as you find power-ups and stuff, and you have to get through increasingly difficult worlds to find out what's at the bottom of the well.
Huh, that's cool.
And there's one story element, which is you don't know why you're doing this because there's no story until you get to the bottom of the well, and then you find out why your character's there. And I will tell you afterwards, so it's not a spoiler, because it is delightful.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool. Do you play any of these running games?
I do not play the running games.
Temple Run or
no end to them.
Subway Surfers.
I want a game I can conquer and know I've won it and be done. I don't want an endless runner.
Don't want something you can just play forever.
I would like maybe an endless runner that presented levels that were curated and well constructed. Can you get through this or not? And things like that.
Because most of the runners are kind of procedurally generated, where it's different every time.
So there actually is one I've played that I did like. I'm trying to remember what it was called. It was this one that it was an indie game. I think it was in a Humble Bundle, so I don't think it was on mobile.
Okay.
But it was, you were running left to right, and music started, and every obstacle you jumped or did added a beat to the music. And if you got hit, it all went away, and you had to like start it up again. It was really cool. It was almost a rhythm game built with the Endless Runner, but it had levels that you beat. So
That's kind of cool.
yeah. Someone in the comments is going to know what that game is, and they're going to mention it. And I would recommend it because indie developer game you can just buy, and it has an end.
Yeah.
Thumbs up for me.
It's great. The other game that I play, which is right now second to Star Trek Timelines, is Teamfight Tactics.
Okay.
Which, do you play any auto battlers?
I do not. Everyone's talked about how great they are, and so I've been tempted to try one. Is Marvel Snap an auto battler?
No, Marvel Snap is amazing, but it's a card game.
Do you play against AI or other players, or how do you play?
It's mostly against other players.
Okay.
But the matches are like 4 minutes long, and yeah, it's just, you'll play against one person. Marvel Snap is an incredibly well-designed game that has all the fun of deck building, and then turned into a little kind of area control game where, a match will last 4 or 5 minutes, and you get to build your own deck and do your own little design.
Not convinced I want to do it. Mostly just because of that thing in my brain that'll say, if it's other people I'm playing against, I will have to be one of the best. Right?
Yeah, which is fair. I think it's good to know how you're going to react to something.
If I playing against the AI, I can never beat a truly well-designed AI. Most AIs for these types of games have certain they're underclocked on purpose to give you a challenge. And I know I can't beat an AI. If Ken can't beat an AI, right, at Jeopardy, then I can't beat an AI at Sagrada unless they underclock it.
Yeah.
And so they've selected an appropriate challenge for me, and I can play that and not have to be the best. If I'm playing other players, like, I won't have to be the best, but I'll have to be the best that I can be, which is why, as we've talked about before, I play Magic and not other games, because Magic I can keep up on. Magic I can legit be good, if not great, and that's good enough for me on that. But
the thing that excites me about card games like this, and you know this, is coming up with wacky decks that do wacky things. It is more important for me to win in a weird way than to win. And so Marvel Snap gives me that buzz.
Right.
And it also has, honestly, a kind of a gotcha element of you're going to collect all these Marvel heroes. And I played it constantly until I hit the point where I was mostly done collecting the cards. Not all the way done, right? Because there's some that are incredibly hard to get. But once I knew that the regular drip feed of dopamine from, oh good, I got another card, that was going to happen once a week instead of a couple times a day, I lost interest in it. And that's partly because the collection aspect dries up, but it's also because I've already built all the cool decks that I can build with the collection that I have. I've already done the weird deck that does this thing. And without new cards, I can't really keep coming up with new ideas. And so it wasn't as fun anymore.
Do you play any games with your kids?
Mobile games?
Yeah.
Sort of. My 11-year-old loves Teamfight Tactics, which is an auto chess thing. And so he and I will play that. That one's on PC as well and has crossplay. So like I can put him on my computer and me on a tablet or a phone, and we can play against each other, which is fun. But other than that, no.
My 13-year-old is obsessed with the with the Bloons franchise.
Oh, yeah. Which is a tower defense, right?
A tower defense with a mild and acceptable, in my opinion, amount of microtransactions.
Okay.
There are some like attempts to get you to buy the power-ups and things, but the game plays really well without them, and the amount of payouts are good. And so it's the level that I can be like, all right, I understand you guys need to make money. This is the one of my best friends ever made Fortnite, right?
Yeah.
And so I understand the need to monetize, and that this is the medium that a lot of games monetize on now. I don't want to trash that too much.
Yeah.
But I also do want to hold up, the games that I hope there's still a world for single player.
Single player, you buy them up front.
Yes,
Yeah.
games. But
Those
we
are nice.
play Balloons together. So
That's cool.
you go ahead, but before we go, I'm going to start looking through, and I'm gonna have my list of games I've played that I loved on my tablet here. So
Boy, I have my tablet upstairs, but I can do the same with little phone games. But I do want to say, because we're talking about microtransactions, I do feel that if I've gotten a game for free and I've gotten enough fun out of it, that they deserve some money, right?
I agree with that. And I generally do. I wish that more games had here's a $20 price point, and it'll give you something every week for the rest of the time you play the game. And it's kind of this is what we think is a reasonable amount to pay for this game. And if you pay us this one time, you're done.
You can pretend like it is a purchase instead
I wish
of
more games did that.
Well, and things like, League of Legends, I'm willing to throw them $10 every, 4 or 5 months to buy a new skin or something like that, to buy a new map in Teamfight Tactics. That, I think, is a good use of that kind of microtransaction money. But like in one of these match 3s where you're just going to buy a bunch of power-ups, those always feel like a waste to me, because then I spend the power-ups and they're gone. Whereas a skin or a new character is something I'll have forever.
Or if it gave you a power-up every day. Just one
if it
random...
was a pass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, here I'm going to go through some of mine that are pretty good.
Okay.
Dot Project, spelled dot PROJECT.
Okay.
Puzzle game. Cool puzzle game. Chuachol. Have you ever heard of this?
No.
It's like an old school adventure game, but goofy. It presents you with a screen that you have to use, and each of them is like mini game, adventure game. There's like this weird creature that's trying to get its cherry that it dropped, and it has to go through this land, and there's like various creatures that they've got the cherry now. Okay, how do I get past this creature? It's fun to play with kids.
Cool.
So
what's that one called?
Chuachol. CHUCHEL. Chuchel. It says it in the game, but it's been a while since I played it, so I don't remember. Downwell, of course. Dragon Boom was pretty good. Dragon with an N, Boom. I will recommend that one. There's Kingdom Rush games are all great. Everyone,
I don't get into those.
Yeah, if you don't like tower defense, then
there's some tower defense that I like, but the Kingdom ones and like the Clash ones, Clash Royale.
Yeah,
I wish I liked those. No.
You're thinking of a different game system. Kingdom Rush or tower defense, buy them up front games, not.
Okay.
Not what are you thinking of? You're thinking of something else.
Clash
There's
of
another one
Clans.
with Rush in it that is like that. The Kingdom Rush ones are like
Rush is different.
little fantasy world where you place down a tower and it spits out 3 soldiers and you've got to stop the creeps coming past and you upgrade your towers and
that's
you play
a good
through
one.
a story.
Because I have seen that one in the App Store and wanted to grab it.
They do have a microtransaction system where you can buy new heroes, but all of them are great. If you like, if you like tower defense, right? Where it's like it's a tower defense where you can't place the towers wherever you want. You've got a certain number of bind points. You can build a tower there, and it'll either shoot arrows or it'll shoot out little dudes to block the way. So
my favorite tower defense ever was it was a Japanese game called Defense Witches, where all your characters were little chibi anime girls, and they would cast spells and kill all the monsters, but that hasn't been supported or playable in several years. It's sad.
There's a really good tower defense I also played that I can't remember what it's called. That was a mobile game. I'll see if it shows up. Hold Down. Thumbs up to Hold Down.
Hold Down or
yes.
Hull Down?
Hold Down.
Hold Down.
Yeah,
okay.
It's only like a half-hour long game, but it's good. I love Hue.
Thank you very much.
HUE, good game. Nice little puzzle game.
Okay.
Real game. Monument Valley is the old standby, and it is as good as everyone says it is. Let's see. Sagrada. Oh, Starbeard.
Starbeard.
High recommendation for Starbeard. It's another match
Is it a
puzzler.
pirate thing?
It's a space pirate thing, but it is not terribly well balanced. But it is innovative and interesting.
Okay.
And
That's cool.
High recommendation for that. Space Marshals was pretty good. Thumbs up to that. You can see I'm just kind of going through. And that'll do me for now. There are other good ones, but there's a few that are legit.
Most of the mobile games that I have are on my tablet. So phone, I've got Marvel Snap on here.
Yep.
And I have Threes. That is the puzzle game that I will play.
I've seen you play that
constantly.
one. Yeah.
That is my, I will sometimes even play that while sitting on the stand at church because it's my hands need to do something that doesn't require my brain. That's Threes for me. And then I've got the 3 Riot games, Teamfight Tactics, Legends of Runeterra, which is their Hearthstone game, and then Wild Rift, which is the mobile version of League of Legends. So
well, there we are. Some recommendations from both of us. So.
Yeah. Thank you very much for listening to us shill for a bunch of mobile games.
Yeah, maybe now one of them will sponsor the podcast. Maybe your gotcha games will show up and be like, oh.
Intentionally Blank brought to you by Azure Lane.
Only if they send us an Anime Girl pillow.
I don't want one of those. We could give it to Ben, though, because Ben plays gotcha games, too.
Does he like Anime Girl pillows?
I doubt it. He's got daughters who might not know what they are. Anyway, how's that, Ben?